Hello, everyone. Yep, we're here. Another edition of the Wrap Up. Dan Myers, Nick Buckler. It's a sad day. Obviously what happened over the weekend. Michigan, Ohio State didn't go as planned. But was there more than the outcome of the game? Was there a reason why it was like that? Were the Wolverines, targeted on by the officials? You can say a lot of things, Dan, but I want to get your take before I get to my obviously overly opinionated take on this. So if you would, just what did you take from that game?
Two things. One is Michigan had every opportunity to seal the deal for this game. I've heard a lot of talk and speculations about the refs. Well, I'll get to that in a second. But with that being said, it was for the most part given to them in a handbasket. It was all right there, and I think it says a lot about this whole rivalry, whether it's been against Michigan State or Ohio State, is the opportunity's been there, and they haven't seized, they haven't jumped on the chances that they've been given. Especially this weekend's game was a real gift. Could have been a lot tougher. Ohio State is a very, very talented team, and with that being said, that talent was shown that they never gave up. They were just consistent, and they never gave up. With the referee situation, there's two things. The Big Ten needs to really sort of, to me, I feel like those refs were just put there, chosen at random. And with that being said, I think with a game that's as important as this weekend's game was, if it was a random call and they were just put there, then that needs to stop. You have to put your top tier referees in this game. There's a lot of decisions that, depending on what side of the fence you stand, you could say it goes either way, but being a Michigan fan, I feel it probably was the best calls. You look at some of these referees, the lead official has a history of being reprimanded. That's never a good thing.
He was fired in 2002.
Fired in 2002.
From the Big Ten Conference for bad officiating.
Yeah. And then the backfield judge in the year 2000 clearly went on record and said that he was a fan and was brought up being an Ohio State fan.
And he was not allowed to officiate the game in 2006 because of that. And, what changes now?
Right.
Well, I don't like him anymore, I swear.
Yeah.
Come on.
This is, this tri-state area, especially Michigan and Ohio, you're brought up either a Spartan fan or a Wolverine fan in Michigan. Ohio, it's pretty much you're just Scarlet Red for the most part. That doesn't change. You're brought up that way, and it stays like that in your system. With that being said, there's a lot of, I'm always one to say it should never come down to the referees, and I still stick by that. But, the real story here is, they had the opportunity, and I think that sticks up for, most of this rivalry is how much longer are we going to have to wait? And it's just unfortunate that such an easy opportunity was lost at the hands of Michigan.
The three officials, the head referee, fired from the Big Ten in 2002. The back judge, a diehard, lifelong Ohio State fan from Athens, Ohio. And the side judge, who was inducted into the Ohio State Athletic Association Hall of Fame in Columbus last year. These three people were allowed to officiate one of the biggest games in the history of the Big Ten Conference. There is absolutely biased opinions there. They are Ohio State people. To me, I don't know how you took it, but when I heard the referee get on his microphone and say, holding, offense, he sounded like a disappointed father talking to his son who just let him down.
Yeah.
When he'd call something, a call or a review that went against Ohio State, mind you, there weren't many calls against Ohio State because there were only 2 for 6 yards. When, the pass interference on Delano Hill, when the ball was 97 feet over his head. The offside that ended up resulting in Jim Harbaugh snapping his headset and throwing his play sheets everywhere, and then that turned into half the distance of the goal penalty, was actually a false start. Oh, and by the way, what Harbaugh was told was, there's always a sideline warning. It's the rules. Always.
Exactly.
Read the rule book, people. You get a sideline warning before there's a penalty. The ref told him, well, in basketball, it would have been a technical foul. Last time I checked, this was a football game. And the rules of football indicate you get a sideline warning. Now, am I blaming the outcome of the game on that? No. However, fast forward to overtime. Mind you, the game should have not ever made it that far. But we're here. We're in overtime, double overtime to be exact. J.T. Barrett on fourth down clearly, absolutely clearly does not get the yard of gain.
Mm-hmm.
He does not make it there. His left arm does. The ball is in his right and gets stuffed. He does not get there. And then the coach of Ohio State, who's now trolling Michigan, saying, oh, well, look, he got it. The image is clearly Photoshopped. Since when do hash marks go diagonal?
Right.
You know, you need to enroll at Specs Howard, man. They'll teach you how to do it right.
There you go.
But for real, this is absolutely absurd that it was allowed, the biggest game, the highest rated game on ABC since 2006, and it was just an absolute mockery and just disgrace and how it was. I mean, I'm never one to blame the officials for a game, but that was absolutely absurd. And I'm starting. At first, I just thought this Detroit versus everybody was a bunch of whiny fans of Detroit teams that never get their way. I'm starting to believe this thing. Detroit versus everybody might be true. When was the last time a Detroit sports team got a beneficial call that ended up giving them a win?
Right.
I personally can't think of it. Red Wings are getting ousted. The Pistons, they're not even in a game where they need one. Michigan doesn't ever get a call. The Lions, well, you saw Thanksgiving. Those refs, you might have had Keller and Charles out there. But, I mean, it just continues and continues and continues. The Tigers, they don't get any calls. We never get any beneficial calls ever. I believe Detroit versus everybody. Call me a whiner, call me a crybaby, I don't care. I might believe this thing, and who knows, I might invest in a shirt and wear it proud to every game because Detroit versus everybody.
Yeah.
It is. It's us against the world.
And another thing that, with going back to the J.T. Barrett situation and the first down, you know, this could have all been prevented with that second overtime. They had 3 and 15, I believe, and Curtis Samuel, that run that he had, bumping into his own player. I'm like, all right, here we go. It's set. It's done. It's down. You know, they're going to have a heck of a distance. They might attempt a field goal, but with the percentage that the kicker was going that game, it just wasn't happening. And I don't hear a lot of people talking about that Curtis Samuel situation. That was just embarrassing. That should have been taken care of right then and there. The fact that he was able to make it that far for setting up that first down controversy was just embarrassing. But I agree with you 100%. I mean, I'm sure talking with your dad, you know, there was always the stigma, you know, going back to the referee situation, is especially in the NHL with the Wings, is the Canadian referees, they hated
Kerry
the Wings.
Fraser.
Yeah. Oh, gosh.
The worst.
Oh, my gosh. So, you know, for anybody that says no credibility to that statement, shame on you, because clearly you've been paying attention to sports. And it's more apparent the more present day we get. You know, the whole Thanksgiving situation with the Lions and the Packers last year. It's incredible, and I feel like Detroit really doesn't have a say or a voice, and that's almost a stigma of how they speak with the nation. So it's just sort of, it's frustrating. How do you fix this? And that's the problem. You really can't. It's the authoritative figure. You say anything wrong, especially in the NFL or even the NBA, you're getting fined, and you really can't do anything with it. You don't see too much of that in NHL, but something's got to be done about it, and this is the prime example of poor officiating at its worst when it's really hurt a Michigan team.
I am thinking, okay, clearly that yellow line that they say is the first down line, the unofficial line, is unofficial. But they just added the pylon cam this year. Mm-hmm. What about adding something to the first down stick, to the top, and you can look straight across? It would definitely help if there's not players in the way. I mean, anything can be better than what they had. They didn't really have a clear look, but I mean, it was just frustrating that they can't make the right call. That's what the instant replay is for, is to make the right call. And they didn't even look at that long. They were under the hood for maybe 30 seconds when they made the call.
Absolutely.
And to me, it's all about getting the call right and go by every measure possible to get the call right. And in one of the biggest games of the season, they did not do so. And just like that, Ohio State's sitting at number 2. Michigan drops to number 5. What does this mean for Michigan in college football playoff or what their overall rank will be at the end of the year. Is there still a chance? What's their future? I mean,
You know, the committee loves, and I was reading this online, they love advanced metrics and strength of schedule, and I think they should be all right if they stay at number 5 when they're announced later this week. It'll help a lot. With that being said, you never know. I mean, you and I are just now talking about, how Michigan teams, albeit whatever sport it is, they do get the short end of the stick a lot of times, and we'll see. It's unfortunate that big game like this was decided. In a university's future in football, the course of it is decided by a referee, and it's unfortunate it goes that way.
I'm going to say that I think there's still a chance for Michigan to make the 4-team college playoff because you traveled at number 2, you went to double overtime, and you lost by 3 points. If anything, that means if they do end up playing again in the future, it's going to be one great game.
Yeah.
And I think Michigan is an elite team, and they are an elite program. Look at the strength of schedule for Clemson. Mm-hmm. They have a home loss. Michigan does not have a home loss. Michigan's record against the top 10 is 3-1. Clemson has not played a top 10 team yet. Let's go to Washington. Their record against the top 10, they don't have a game against the top 10. So to me, if Colorado beats Washington in the Pac-12 championship game, Michigan should slide in. Now you can say, well, let's go to the Big Ten championship where Penn State plays Wisconsin. To me, if Wisconsin wins, that's good for Michigan because that would give every team other than Ohio State 2 conference losses. And to me, Michigan beat Wisconsin, Michigan beat Penn State, and to me, Michigan is the second or maybe even the best team in this conference. They killed Penn State 49-10. Yeah. Oh, but they were a different team then. No, they weren't. Just because it was earlier in the season, they didn't have those balls rolling yet. Oh, let me tell you, the season is 12 games no matter what. You play teams at the beginning, you play teams at the end. Don't say, oh, well, they didn't get going yet. Who cares? They still played the same players on the field at both games. So you're trying to tell me they were a different team? Give me a break and find me a real reason why you're going to hate Michigan and why you're going to keep Michigan out. It's all about money in college football for the revenue.
Yeah.
To me, a rematch of Michigan-Ohio State would be huge. Michigan-Alabama would be huge. I mean, I don't think Clemson's a top 4 team. They're going to be there. Mm-hmm. But I think it's very possible to be Bama, Ohio State, Clemson, and Michigan.
Yeah.
We just need Washington to lose. And I think it's the ball's in the playoffs court right now, CFP. And I really think that committee does like Michigan because when they lost to Iowa, they stayed at number 3. And mind you, Iowa is now ranked 24th. They're 8-4, and they are really a different team, as the idiots would say. Different team.
And I got to agree with you completely. What you said with the money making, the viewing, is you're not going to get that. With Alabama and Clemson, if you want to go to the bowl game, you're going to get that marquee, perfect viewing experience with a team or a matchup with Alabama and Michigan, Alabama, Ohio State. But the fact that Clemson's even in this discussion is embarrassing. And last year, I believe you and I were having the same conversation with the fact that these bowl games are hideous. I mean, they're not pulling the viewers that they should be. If this is a bowl game, a championship game, there shouldn't be any doubt or, any paranoia as far as what teams are in it. And they're getting excessive with these games, but another reason is that these games viewing is going down so much is the fact that the bad product that they're putting in it. And there should be 3 teams in this, the big bowl conversation, and that's Alabama, Michigan, and Ohio State. And with Michigan's strength of schedule, I think it should be Alabama and Michigan.
But we're just homers, and we're biased, so don't listen to us. The Lions, however, first place, essentially a 2-game lead in the division because they have the tiebreaker with Minnesota, 7-4, third in the NFC. If the playoffs were to start today, they would host. Yeah, that's right. Ford Field would call the home spot for the first playoff game. They're a half game out of a first-round bye behind Seattle. And they hold tiebreakers against every team except Dallas because it's conference record. And the Detroit Lions are 5-2 against NFC opponents. Should we get excited? Are they just a product of a best of the worst? I'm still on board, but they're not that good. Yeah. But That game on Thanksgiving was pretty exciting at the end. And again, the officials in that game were quite bad. And again, I'm not one to blame the officials, except in the Michigan game. But Lions football, there were some real bad calls. The interception that the Lions took back 71 yards, they called pass interference. It was an absolute joke. And they weren't called both ways. And then a player on Minnesota said that the Lions won due to bad officiating. Listen, I know you didn't get a chance to watch the game because you were a part of it, but if you watched the game, you would see, hey, no, they tried to let the purple and yellow and white win the game. But guess what? The roar was restored, the Lions won, and they're in first place. Who knew?
Yeah. It's impressive, yeah. With that, it just goes to show that, Detroit teams really have to fight if they want any ounce of credibility or respect, and whether it's the opposing team or the referees, you're always going to have an issue with that because Detroit's not a nice market to see in the marquee. It's nothing that you really want to see. The LA market or Miami market, Chicago, New York. Yeah, but Detroit, no. So we're always going to have that chip on our shoulder until faith is restored.
Tough schedule coming up here. At New Orleans this week, then home against Chicago. There you go. And then at the Giants and at Dallas before you come home to wrap up the season against Green Bay. I guess this will be what they're made of. New Orleans is a tough team still, although they're just 500. Their defense is bad, but their offense is pretty good. And so, if the Lions' offense plays like it has been playing, this could be a struggle for the Lions, and they might lose in New Orleans before coming back, hopefully to beat Chicago this time around. At the Giants is a crapshoot. Who knew? Eli Manning's not that good, although they are 8-3. And at Dallas, there's no way. I'm sorry, no way you win in Dallas. You've won 10 straight ball games. They're 10-1. You think the hapless Lions are going to go in and beat them? I'm sorry, no, they won't. And then at home against Green Bay to end the year. If it comes down to it, I think they can win that game if they have to. Green Bay's awful this year. Terrible. I don't know what the problem is, but they're horrible.
Yeah.
They killed the Lions. It's only 7 points. Oh, okay. They were down by 30.
Yeah, and if they want to make the playoff bound, they're going to earn it. They really are. And I think if they do make it to the playoffs, then they're a team to watch out for. But until that happens, you're really not going to. We'll see.
They're the best of the worst. That's the only way to put it. They're not a good football team. Very mediocre. I guess we'll see if they go in New Orleans and win. Maybe I'll change my ways a little bit, but
it's going to be a week-by-week observation.
It really is. It's like the Tigers. Oh, they're going to win the division. Oh, they're never going to win another game. I'm sorry. I promised I'd never talk about them again. So with that being said, we need to take a break. We'll see you in a minute. What's up, man?
Oh, I need a haircut.
I just got mine done today.
Where'd you go?
Went to Rocco's. It's Chesterfield. About a mile east of 94 on 23.
Oh, how much do they charge?
It's $12. You can walk right in anytime. They're just closed on Sundays, I think.
Oh, $12? It might be worth the drive up there.
It really is. We'll go next time.
All right, let's do it.
Let's do it.
If ever there's a reason to be swept up in the season of the falling days, and if the days grew shorter and the darkness drew its order from the autumn gray, I'd rather sit this out and sleep the day away instead. Weary eyes a bit too slow and deep. I'd rather sit this out and sleep the day away instead, to worry about the emptiness that comes.
Hey.
Way to get that out of our system.
Yeah. We're good.
Feeling better now.
We're good. Feel good. Red Wings are feeling a little good. Just a little.
Some of them.
Yeah, well, those that remain who are not injured. They have 5 of their last 6 possible points they have taken. The exception was the overtime loss to Montreal, which to me, on the back end of a back-to-back, night-to-night game against the best team in the NHL, I'd take a point in that game all day with Carey Price between the pipes. Where do I sign up for 1 point? Because I'll take that every time.
Yeah, especially the past weeks that they've had with that drought that they had of was a 4-game losing streak, if more. And it's tough. I was impressed. I really was impressed. It was going to be a low-scoring game. I think everybody sort of knew that with a team with the talent level of Montreal. So to pull at least get a point out of that, like you were saying, is huge.
It really was. But what has happened is a number of injuries have piled up. We were already without Helm and Athanasiou. And then Tyler Bertuzzi goes down. Brendan Smith goes down. Smith will be out, they're saying 4 to 8 weeks. And Tyler Bertuzzi, 3 to 5 weeks. Thomas Yurko is activated today. He hasn't played in a very, very, very long time. So it's really a question of what is he going to be? How is he going to be? I never was a fan of Yurko. I said trade him, get him out of town. But I guess he dropped some weight. He's faster. His hands are still there. I mean, I'm rooting for the guy. I hope he does well. I hope he's a spark for this team. Although he went down to Grand Rapids for 2 conditioning stints, tweaked his back in the second one. Apparently he's good to go now, or they're just trying to get anybody they can into that lineup that can stay healthy. Athanasiou's still out probably another 2 weeks. They're like, oh, just 1 week, and then it keeps being another week, and then they add another week to it. Jimmy Howard is another name you can add to the list. He was put on IR after putting up some eye-popping numbers to start the year. Tweaks his groin against New Jersey Friday night. Mrazek comes in. They get a great win in overtime, 5-4. Mike Green really with a great overtime goal and a great celebration. And Anthony Mantha going to the Snip show. Man, both of his goals were Snip daddies. And Abdelkader had a big save in that game. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, plain tender.
Still not worth $4.8 million, but hey, beggars can't be choosers. They need to string these wins together and really get some momentum going. Dallas comes into town this week. I mean, there's some tough games ahead, and it's just a matter of getting these points. Because at the end of the year, you do not want to have to win 10 in a row just to make the playoffs. Like they've been putting themselves into those situations the past 3 to 4 years where they've had to go on a 5-game win streak at the end of the year. Don't get me wrong, I'd love that as long as they get in. But let's not make it that stressful, boys. Come on. Yeah. I hate having heart attacks every, end of April. The sun's coming out. The losers at Comerica are starting to play. It's good. Spring is sprung. You got spring fever, and then you're pacing your living room, with a ginger ale.
Yep.
Trying not to scream too loud or punch your TV. I mean, let's get it done now, please.
Yeah, absolutely. And you and I have been talking about this all season, is the fact that these little games, they do need to win because you want to avoid the cardiac arrest that you go into towards the end of the season when playoff time is coming right around the corner. It was nice, it was nice getting that streak on, the 4-game losing streak, and then obviously some excellent saves by Peter Mrazek, especially Sunday. That wide open net
the glove
was just incredible, and that will be in highlight reels for years to come. Abdelkader, like you were talking about, playing tender in that. Well, was it Mrazek that was out of?
It was Mrazek.
Mrazek, yeah, he was out of place. That's what a good defensive team does. That was huge. With that being said, with the injuries, this injury to Brendan Smith, I really think throws up a big flag for management. Hopefully, if they're paying attention, I mean, obviously they have to, but to look for a defenseman. If he's gone, this whole injury card is really biting us in the behind during playoff time, and it's cost us cups. It's cost us a lot of cups, and unfortunately, I feel like they haven't really paid attention to this, and they need to go. We've been talking about this week in and week out. They need to go pick up a defenseman, and especially when you're going to have an injured Brendan Smith. These guys aren't coming back 100% healthy, and the season only gets harder as it goes along. Playoff time comes around. You put on your big boy shoes or take a seat because we're going to need it.
We really are. I mean, you can't be going in with Xavier Ouellette and Jonathan Erickson. You're already without Alexei Marchenko, who to me isn't even good to begin with. Marchenko and Smith now out. Insert Sproul and Xavier Ouellette. You need somebody. I'm sorry, Xavier Ouellette is not the answer. He had all this hype around him, and he's been pretty invisible. I really like Ryan Sproul, though. Erickson's got to go, but he won't because he's one of the veterans. Have not been impressed with Danny DeKeyser this year at all. It's been Mike Green. Cronwall actually has not been bad since he's been back from injury, although I'm still not a huge fan of Nick Cronwall. To me, it's Mike Green and, the boys.
Yeah.
Dirty Mike Green and the boys. It's something needs to get done, and needs to get done quick, or else the streak could end here in Hockeytown moving into the LCA. where the Pistons will be playing next year. That just announced last week. I'm not a huge fan of that. I don't know about you.
No.
But we'll let you ponder that until they come to town next year.
Yeah.
And me and you, well, we'll ponder until next week. Dan Myers, Nick Buckler, we're going to say goodbye for now, but see you next time.